It's Primetime Saturday with Aisha LaLa.
No matter how bad you want to be a part of something, there are things that you're just not going to be able to be a part of.
The world sees this as a madman, and many of our allies are standing up and speaking out.
That reason is because he was still worried that he might end up with some prison time.
And as Aisha said, it's been a week, guys. I like that. It's been a week. It's been a week. Love it. Love it. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Yes. I co-host and co-produce also the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that team, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live where I am, time zone, a little bit after 5 o'clock on May 3rd. And I've been asking Mother Nature, when are we going to get 3 or 4 days of good spring weather? Earlier on this week, you know what? I want to bring the ladies up. We can have a little chat and we're going to get into things. I had quite the interesting week. Well, I think not as entertaining as theirs, but I think I can add on to it. So let's bring to the stage Aisha K. Staggers and the world of curls. What's going on, ladies?
Yeah, it's been a week.
It's been a year and a week.
It's been a year and a week. Absolutely. What's been going on in your worlds?
Nice weather.
Well, our conversations, me, you, and Aisha and Jill and I be having conversations every single day. I think they're the only ones who keep me sane.
Inquiring minds, inquiring ears would love to hear those conversations one day.
Well, you know, we have a group text.
Oh gosh. Well, I was gonna say something, but I'm always there could be people listening.
I'll give you an example of something that I sent them.
You can put it out there. I'm just hoping.
My mother's birthday was Tuesday. We went to this restaurant, and I sent them a picture because we walking from the parking to this restaurant, walked past this store, and it was like a taxonomy store, and so they had a whole bunch of dead stuffed animals dressed as celebrities. And so the one that I sent them was like a muskrat or something in the Beyonce Cowboy Carter phase. So it had the hat on and a gold tooth.
Okay.
Oh, it was hilarious.
And the reason I showed them that is because I see things that nobody should ever see. Like the time I saw a guy crossing the street by my house wearing a green suit with black question marks on it, and he was wearing a red clown wig, and he had a rainbow pocket square, and nobody believed me except my daughter was with me. That's the only time, like, people have to be with me. I see things nobody should see.
I love that.
I would never believe that.
That would be a great title of a series. I see things that nobody, and just talk about these things that nobody should see.
And that's why I've stopped like just seeing them. I've had to show people. That's why I was like, I had to show them. Jill was like, what? They had a gold tooth. I mean, down to the gold tooth. There was one, like I told them, there's one like Marilyn Monroe, one like Madonna. The Marilyn Monroe one had the white dress on.
You have pictures of this?
That was hilarious.
You got pictures of this?
I didn't get the Marilyn Monroe one, but my daughter has the Madonna one, and it's the Madonna with the cones.
Okay.
I'm trying to show you. These are the things that we have in our side chat. Now, listen, if you even want to get in on that, you want to make sure you go to Girlfriend's Chat because y'all get a little bit of that on the side too.
Yeah,
we don't hold back on that.
Yeah, that's right. There's a Girlfriend's Chat, and then there's a girlfriend.
There's a Girlfriend's Chat.
Yeah,
there's a chat with the girlfriends.
And then there's the Girlfriend's Chat, right? OMG. Well, something interesting happened to me this week. So on Tuesday, we had a pretty brutal windstorm.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and around 6 and a little bit of thunder and lightning, but it's a lot of wind. 6 o'clock, power goes out. Okay, no problem. Goes off till 9:45 in the evening. Understandable. All right. Get up the next morning at 5 o'clock. The power's out again. And it was just I guess it only affected 60 something customers, but there were 60 customers, and I was one of them, and did not have power till 9:30 that night.
Wow.
So in the space of 24 hours, I only had power for about 5 or 6 hours.
Wow.
It's crazy. But
And what day was this for you?
Pardon me?
What day was that for you?
Tuesday night and then Wednesday all day, basically.
You mean the day after voting?
Oh, stop it now. Stop it now.
I used to start thinking the same thing.
All right, look. No, well, so hold on now. Electricity is handled by the municipalities, but who knows? Who knows? And actually, Monday night, well, it was interesting. Monday on the Morning Vibe, we had someone come in and talk about the election. Incredible viewership. And then Monday evening, myself, Cesar, and Wayne Harris went in. Cesar and myself went from 9 o'clock till about midnight, chatting about, and it was still some results. It was one of the most interesting Canadian federal elections in a long time, because there's seats that were raised within and some seats switched from the night to the day because of recount and advanced polling. But one of the things I love being Canadian is there was no nonsense about voting. We do one of the things.
No, we do that over here.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, right? And
no. One party over here does that because they can't win if they don't.
Right? And the funny thing is, we do ours by paper. We don't even do it electric. You have to go to the polling booth. And
really?
Ours are electric too. Ours aren't electric either. We take a paper and you circle in the bubble and you slide it in the machine.
No, we do. Ours is in a box. Like, people count. It's not even that but there's no crazy controversies yet, not up in, at least in this election, and we haven't caught that disease from down south about election rigging and all that kind of stuff.
Rub it in.
We have a president now who wants to change the election machines for federal elections. Now, mind you, states monitor elections, so states have to buy voting machines. Okay, so states would have to buy separate voting machines for the federal elections or the state election, but most states can't afford that. So he wants states to buy voting machines that are going to already be rigged through SpaceX. Okay, this is absolutely ridiculous. My state is suing him behind that because we just spent $20 million on new voting machines for 2026. They're like, oh, and we haven't used them yet. They're like, no, we're in control of our elections. We're buying our machines.
Yeah, makes sense. So, question.
Yes.
Do you want to go into a topic before break, or do you want to go for the long thread and go bang, bang, bang?
We're going to need a break a little later.
Well, do you want to? Well, we can do one now, but then we got to stretch, or we can talk about a chat, talk about a subject, then we can take a break and then go for the stretch run. What do you want to do?
I think we need to do that because I think I'm going to need a break after this first topic.
Okay, all right.
This first topic has me all kinds of heated.
Okay, before we go any further, a lightened being says, hello, family. Good to see you. Good to see you. Another week you're here. And of course, Primetime number 1, Jen Myers. She says, hello, everyone. What is going on, Jen Myers? And even Lala saying, hello, hi, everyone, with a heart. All right. First conversation topic. We're going to do this before the break because even in the last 15 minutes, I mentioned this one. I said, oh, we got to talk about that. All right. So let's talk about that. Judge permanently blocks, quote, unconstitutional 47 order for targeting law firm Perkins Coie. Let's talk about it.
So
good job.
He got his butt spanked in court all week long.
Yes, he did.
It wasn't just this. It was also the stuff on immigration. That immigration lawyer also spanked his behind. But this one, the judge even quoted Shakespeare and said, "You want to do what Shakespeare said. First, let's kill all the lawyers." But the judge permanently blocked this order, basically saying, "You can't bring it up again. You can't do it again. And if you do it to another law firm and they bring it to the court, it's going to come to my courtroom and I'm going to tell you no then too. You can't," because what he wanted was illegal. It was bribery. It was bribery, plain and simple. You cannot put these restrictions on a law firm, stop them from FOIA requests and all this stuff that they need to defend their clients because you don't like who they represent. You can't tell them who they can and cannot represent. You can't tell them who they can and cannot hire. You can't tell them what causes they can and cannot support. And then you cannot tell them, if you give me $60 million worth of pro bono services for whatever causes I tell you, I might not, I might let you get some information if you need it. But that's all. But that's also a conditional might. You can't do that. It's illegal. And like she said, it's unconstitutional. And it's unconstitutional on the basis that everyone has right to counsel.
Yes.
Everyone has a right to counsel and due process. He had due process when he had his 4 felony counts and all that stuff. He had due process. He needs to sit down and shut the hell up, mind his business, and try to run a country that he has no interest in running. And if you don't do it, dude, go play golf. We're paying for it anyway.
That's all he's doing anyway. He's playing golf.
Better yet, plan that $92 million parade you want to have for your birthday. But do something and stay out of here.
LaLa.
I'm proud of
it. I'm gonna have to create a collage of LaLa faces. Go on, LaLa.
I'm so proud of this judge. It seems like so many people are cowering to what I call the orange rag. My husband told me not to call them up because he thinks muffins. So I have to call them the orange rag now. But I think it's going to take many more people standing up with that. And we have seen that with Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown, who has also come out and openly condemned everything that is being done. We know that the higher court has been compromised. It's very nice to hear that there is a fresh breath of people who are saying and screaming that, hey, this is not what our country is built on. This is not constitutional. What you're trying to do is illegal. I do fear for them in many ways, but this is what it's going to take in order for us to unify and continue to move forward with this fight, knowing that we're being hit with 50,000 things every 10 minutes. Like if every 5 minutes we get something new. And I hope and I pray that many more judges also stand up and do this. The fact that he said, don't you even think about bringing this back up in here because this is not going to happen. That is like what we said when we was kid, infinity. Like at the end, like whatever we'd say, like we say, no, you are infinity. So to me, that just felt good because sometimes we have to feel like we've got a little bit of a win. And this one was a good one.
Yeah. And, he's going to try and appeal it. But here's the thing about the Supreme Court. And that's what I said. That goes back to what I said at the beginning. He got his behind spanked in court. What did the Supreme Court say earlier? You have to give, when he's about the immigrants, you have to give them due process. 920. That's the basis of this. It really is about due process and people being able to have counsel. So he can send that up to the Supreme Court. He might get his 9-0 again, and that will be another embarrassment for him. And remember, embarrassment is the key word here for what I have to say at the very end of the show. So keep that in mind. But yeah, But yes, I mean, that judge is awesome. And I know I saw people on social media. The only social media I'm on really is Blue Sky. Oh, and Gander, which is Canadian. Yes, Gander is a new Canadian-owned social media, very progressive. They're keeping the liberal BS on. You have to apply. Anyway, they're not up and running, but it's kind of like Blue Sky in the beginning when it's like, hey, if you're interested. So yeah. So anyway, when I was thinking about how all of this will work out with the with the law firms, I'm really thinking that this is a good thing. But people on social media are concerned. They're like, oh, well, how are they going to enforce this? How are they going to enforce this? Why can't the judges get the U.S. Marshals? Let me be very clear, and I need for everyone to understand. The U.S. Marshals fall under DOJ. U.S. Marshals are in courtrooms because the DOJ gives them permission to be, but the DOJ controls them. Who's over DOJ? Pam Bondi, Bombshell Blondie. She's over the DOJ. And if you've seen we're going to get to her in a little bit, but there's no way that she will give them orders to jail this president or to even hold him to account. But I have a feeling that defying he will defy the courts, but it's going to be at his own peril. Because like even earlier this week when he said, well, I could call El Salvador and bring Garcia back. Well, guess what? All the lawyers were like, I can't believe he said that, because he said he couldn't. He just said he could. Garcia's attorney
opened the door.
It's on video. And see, here we are back to this guy giving evidence out of his own mouth. So yeah,
because he cannot shut up. He has constantly got to spew verbal vomit every second. I feel so sorry for those kids whose commencement that he spoke at. He sat up there and said a whole bunch of nothing.
Nope.
How awful is that for them?
I've been to a graduation where a president spoke. My best friend's graduation from Morgan State University in '97. Bill Clinton was a keynote, and it was a great speech. It was what a speech by a president at a commencement is supposed to be. But you know what? But here is the thing. Trump's ego is what gets him in trouble with the court, because even though, and mind you, a lot of the judges holding him to account are Republican appointed judges.
That's the thing, which is interesting.
That's a very, very important point.
Well,
because the thing is that they're not. It's and you know the judges that you're concerned about, with the exception of Eileen, whatever her name was, the lower court judges.
Cannon.
Yeah, Cannon. The lower court judges people are concerned about, but these other appointees, these federal appointed judges, these circuit court judges that get appointed by a president, they really are about their stuff. They really are about the rule of law. And I think they're even more stronger about the rule of law because they see it being eroded.
It's interesting. I heard that last. The ladies got a chat about that. That was quite interesting. So we'll just catch up on some comments. Doing well. Jen Meyer says, doing well, Dr. Vibe. Hope you are also. Next up, Enlighten. Was not playing and showed no fear. And then Enlightened Being says, we don't hear about the things he's not getting away with. It's a constant fight, but he's not truly winning everything. Mm-hmm. And also, Enlightened Being says, I am proud of that journalist this week who stood up to him.
Yeah, the ABC journalist. I thought that was the funniest thing. Because the man, I mean, he really was shocked that, what do you mean it was AI? What do you mean it was Photoshop? Anyone else could see those were typed letters. Dude, what is wrong with you? Those were typed letters. Anybody can see it. I'm telling you, and anybody who has a tattoo, I've got 3. You know it.
Okay, you know.
Tattooed letters.
You got
do
three
not
too,
look-
LaLa? Okay.
Tattooed letters. I don't even have letters, but I got lines in my outlines. I got butterflies. I know what they look like. And I'm gonna tell you something. They don't look like typed letters. No matter how great the tattoo artist is, it's not gonna look like typed letters. It's not gonna look like sans serif. Okay?
And then he had food up there and started like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Like, it's like,
how can you say that? Why can't you just say I'm right? Why can't you just say I'm right? Because you're wrong. That's why you can't just say you're right. And
he stood firm. He stood firm, and I was proud of him.
But the part that's so bad is that it's not like you can't see pictures of his hands at the meeting with his senator at the senator's hotel in El Salvador. And those letters aren't there. And those letters aren't there.
But even the president of El Salvador is saying he's actually now starting to backtrack, because after that interview with that reporter, he was like, "Wait a minute, you're not gonna make me look like no fool." And he's been like, he has now started backtracking his own story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. And just before we go to break, I shared in the Discord group a very interesting conversation this week. Bloomberg, a representative from Bloomberg, interviewed Anthony Scaramucci.
Mm-hmm.
And for those people who may not know that name, he actually, I think he served as 45's
first time
communication director for, was it for 9 months? Well, how many?
11
days. But he said something very interesting. He said, 47 only cares about two things: attention and money.
Yep.
And I actually, this is before the break, I actually watched, there was a town hall held by Chris Cuomo, Stephen A. Smith, and what was the other gentleman's name? Oh, who's the guy? Oh, he was on Fox News from a few years ago, and he got kicked out.
O'Reilly, I refuse.
O'Reilly. But it was interesting because they actually had 47 live on the phone.
I know.
Oh my goodness. Everything. I did this. I did that. And I just going, OMG. But I will say, before we go to break, the big challenge that 47 is having, and he doesn't realize it, two things. He doesn't have a plan.
Nope.
And second
he
of
never
all,
did. He wanted to not be prosecuted. That's the only plan.
And then the other thing is that, well, on top of it, he's trying to do everything by himself. He's not all these executive orders. He's doing nothing through Congress, and that's where he's really sipping. He need to achieve his agenda, to do it all his own. He's going to get more and more pushback from judges, from people like that. And a good question: what great American president was regarded as a disunifier? I don't think any president in the United States has been called great that was a disunifier, and that's what.
In his interview with ABC, he said the Declaration of Independence was a unifying document. It was actually a document to separate us from England.
There you go. On that note,
fucking idiot! I'm so tired of this Yahoo. I'm so sick of this. Like every day, I have to listen to this garbage. I'm over it.
Oh well, guess what? Oklahoma kids starting this fall, part of their lessons in their history books and social studies class is that the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump.
What? Okay, on break. No, we're going on break. We're going on break. LaLa needs a break. All right, we're going on break.
About to explode.
We are going to go on break. We'll be back, and I think it was a good decision to do a subject before we went on break, because too much of this for the ladies would have been a little too much for them. All right, let's go to break. We'll be back with, and really the tagline of this conversation is trying to make sense of the nonsense in American news.
We named it right.
All right, we'll be back in, what am I going to do here? I don't even know what I'm going to do. I got to pick something. All right, let's just pick something. Primetime Saturday with Aisha LaLa. Join Aisha K. Staggers and Laura LaLa Key as they cut through the chaos and make some sense of the nonsense in American news and politics.
People are expecting Obama-level eloquence out of a man who's always talked like this.
Sharp insights, bold opinions, and a touch of humor. It's the show that keeps you informed and entertained.
There's no way that Trump is going to debate her.
Don't miss Primetime Saturday with Aisha and LaLa. Tune in and stay ahead of the headlines. All right, we are back on Primetime Saturday with Aisha and LaLa. Another thing before, let me get through the show stuff, and then another interesting thing before we get into more stories. All right, catch Girlfriends Chat with Aisha LaLa and Phil Jones at Patreon, but gradually going over to Substack. There is the link on Substack. Subscribe to the Substack of Girlfriend Chat. All right. Next up, Primetime Saturday store is there. There's the link. Join the Discord group. Please email me at dr.vibe@drvibeshow.com or click on the Discord link there. And I'll also be putting that in the comment section on all the platforms you're watching this live or in the replay. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel and hit the notification button. Like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To advertise your business product or show on any of the platforms I'm a part of, dr.vibe@drvibeshow.com. And cannot forget Indie Soup DV, which is part of Dr. Tachi, who's based out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, independent content creators platform. And it's been around for about 13 months. And I just sent an email to someone giving them an update on how many subscribers that are on her platform now. They are now up to 27,800 subscribers in about 13 months.
That's wonderful.
And this part of this content is on that platform, and potentially some more people are going to be on that platform that you're looking at in this screen. If I can get them going. Actually, I want to get Aisha and LaLa on separately, but that's a whole other conversation. All right. And before we go into more stories, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a very interesting conversation. Don't know if you know the YouTube site Diary of a CEO. Have you ever heard of that YouTube?
No, I have not.
Yeah,
very popular. The host of that had an interview this week with Michelle Obama and her brother.
Oh, nice.
And
Really?
Michelle was quite open, saying like when she first met Barack, she didn't like him, and the brother was there, but Michelle was quite open, as she always is a lot of time about some of her journey, but it was nice to see the conversation about her and her brother. And this is the reason why you should probably join the Discord group, because I'm going to be putting up links of this in the Discord group for people to watch. Great. Ready for the next one?
Oh, one thing.
Yeah.
We need 10 followers on our Substack to post the videos. So make sure you follow.
I'm going to put the information on all the platforms on the comments sections that I am doing it. So that's why I'm multi-purposing. Next conversation subject. U.S. House Republicans approved the rule to block Democrats from forcing votes on executive oversight. Who's up?
Okay, it was a vote 218 to 216 across down party lines. And basically what the House Republican rule says that Democrats cannot force any kind of vote to raise any kind of inquiry into anything that Trump does. So anything that he does that seems unethical, like the stuff with the colleges, and they think
hold on, he does unethical stuff.
Well, remember, everything that's in their purview has to do with funding. So, for example, this cutting of money to NPR and PBS, and him writing an executive order to do it, for them to, hey, wait, we have oversight over this. We need to know where this is coming from, where the funds are being diverted. They cannot force a vote. They can't even force a vote to say, let's look into this. They can't even say,
let's understand how this is even allowed in our country setup. I don't understand this.
because every session they get to set a certain number of rules, and the party in control, but they have to vote on the rules. They have to vote. Typically, the votes there are bipartisan votes on these rules, right? But this time, the entire House has rendered itself impotent. They are not, let me be very clear, they're not passing any legislation. I was wondering why, I have been wondering, everybody's been saying, Democrats aren't doing nothing, they're not doing nothing, they're not doing it. I actually, and part of what made me do this was because David Hogg, whatever he wants to call himself, has decided he's going to challenge Democrats. Fine. He hasn't released the criteria or any of that. We talked about this last week. But some people who want to work with him are looking to challenge this one particular Democrat who's 50. He's not the kind of old person you're talking about. He's our age. He's 50 and he's out of Indiana. I went to look at his record. This man has co-sponsored or signed on to at least 200 bills. Most of them are bills that have been written to counter every executive order that Trump has put forward. His record, he is recorded as being the most progressive Democrat in Indiana. You don't know his name? Because that's what he's been doing. That's the work that he's been doing. And guess what? None of those bills has come to the floor to even be read.
Wow.
They've never come out of committees. The Republicans have shut them down. Every last one. I mean, there are ones, and I mean, I can't tell you how many bills I read. Restore, blah, 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 blah. For every executive order, there is a bill and then there are bills to expand things like healthcare, to expand the child tax credit, to do all of these things. No, they have not. And the thing is that I heard about this thing with this rule came later that day after I looked up what this guy was doing. And then I saw that and I'm like, wow, no wonder people don't understand what the Democrats have been doing. 200 bills means that virtually almost all the members of the Democratic coalition have been filing bills. They're just not getting out of committees. They're not getting read. That's it. They're filed and the Republicans are sitting on them. And they're sitting on them because these bills are a threat to Donald Trump's power. And that rule right there is to stop the public from hearing about and seeing any inquiry. They're trying to prevent a thing like what happened with the January 6th committee.
Yeah, I'd heard a report saying how many executive orders 47 assigned.
Most of any president in history.
And compared to how many bills have been passed by this. And I'm going, okay, there's a disconnect here.
Yeah.
LaLa.
Listen, I don't even know where to begin. I just got through reading a book, and most people will probably say it is a conspiracy book, but the more and more I listened to it, and I'm going to pull up the title for you. I have shared this with Jill and Aisha. I finished it up this week, and everything that we are talking about today, how they are doing this in the committees and all of this stuff, this man wrote about 30 years ago. And I literally stopped in the middle of my walk and said, "You got to be kidding." Everything that he actually said is actually happening now. And then they had an interview with him after the fact, like, how are you feeling? What are most people saying? His name was William Cooper, and it's called Behold a Pale course. It talks about everything that is going on that we are living in right now. And he wrote it out, I think maybe early 80s. Right after the Reagan thing going on, but he was also a part of the military. I think he was in the Navy, and he saw a lot of these documents that were being put in place. And it was the beginning of the Project 2025. If you go back, yeah, I'm going to bring it up every single time because Aisha and I went through it word by fucking word, and people were like, it ain't gonna happen. But if you go back and you look, you will see that everything that they said is lining up perfectly. And what they're doing in the committees, how they're shuttering the Democrats. This is all written. It's all in Project 2025. They spoke to one of the writers who was, and they were like, how are you feeling about the Democratic Party? And don't you feel ashamed? He said, just wait. You ain't seen nothing yet. That's exactly what he said. And so my issue with all of this is we have no functioning government. Constitution is not being adhered to. It is like it never even happened. Like right. If they could put it through the shredder and erase it off of all internet websites and all historical and museums, they will. So my fear, and I don't like to put it in a fear term. I think I actually summed it up when I spoke to my husband 2 weeks ago. Something happened and I looked at him and the only word that came out of my mouth was, I'm terrified. I never let that come out of my mouth before, but this is exactly what we're seeing now. And I don't know how to stop it. I mean, I actually said this to Aisha this week, that how are we helping people when we don't have solutions? And that's what I want this show to be about, is us informing you, but also giving you the solutions so that we can unify and fight. And that's where I'm feeling right now this week. I'm just going to be very honest with you. I'm not feeling very good at all. Matter of fact, I'm feeling pretty defeated.
Yeah. And this part right here feels sick about them blocking Democrats from forcing votes on the oversight. But then they've taken it a step further, where they are investigating Democratic members of Congress and the Senate just because the DOJ sent Jasmine Crockett a letter saying that they're investigating her. They sent it to Moskowitz. They sent it to a whole bunch, to Chris Murphy, AOC, everyone who's out there speaking out. Literally investigating Jasmine Crockett for telling Elon Musk to fuck off.
Yeah.
Why is that a crime? That is not a crime.
It's not a government official.
Exactly. It's not a crime. He's not a government official. And guess what? Fuck Trump too. Because you can't, that is freedom of speech. If someone threatens, that's a different story. But to say a curse word at someone, as many times as the MAGA folks hung nooses outside of the White House when President Trump was there, President Obama was there, in their adherence to their racism, as many times as they called and continue to call Michelle Obama a man, nobody investigated them for saying any of it. They need to knock this shit off. I'm so sick of it. I am so sick of it. The double standard. It is, they want freedom of speech, but they don't want anyone else to have it. They so badly want to be a victim. You know what? Let me tell you something about being a victim of oppression. It is not fun. And anyone who's lived under oppression never, ever recommends it for anyone else.
As simple as that.
Sorry, I'm just so pissed.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We have freedom of speech here.
But this rule pisses me off. It really does.
No problem.
And they backed it up with things like what they're doing in Texas, banning political memes. You can serve up to a year now for a political meme.
Wow. Scott Greaves says she's
wait. If that is the case, then anybody who shares that meme of Trump dressed as the Pope should go to freaking jail.
Thank you.
Because the Archdiocese of New York was offended. They took it as him
And they came out
mocking their process.
How dare you? How dare you do this
said,
when we
"Don't mock
just
us."
lost our Pope and we are getting ready to go? You didn't even let us mourn.
Right.
And Scott, can we bring up Scott's comment?
Okay, so Scott says she's absolutely right about the book Behold a Pale White Horse, but Cooper made it clear that it's both parties who are just pawns of the ruling bloodline families that control the world. And he also says nothing to be afraid of if you're a child of light.
I agree with you, Scott. Yes. And what you will find here, I don't recognize your name, and if you're new to us, welcome. We do talk about both sides. We don't play around here. If somebody's not doing their job, we call them out. But you are correct. You are very correct. We did talk about both sides.
Oh, we have dragged Chuck Schumer through the ringer, and I still got more smoke for him. Wait till next week.
Okay, April Watson says, I have that book. It banned in jail during Tupac's. I hope you're probably time, not rhyme. Okay. All right. Okay. Good to see everybody here on the live broadcast. So our next conversation topic is, speaking of Ms. Bondi, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, Flatters 47 would claim that 75% of America would be dead if it was not for 47. Wow. Some of my people say that is really twisted.
My favorite artist of all time died from an overdose of fentanyl. So I don't play with this. And she said there are 330 million people in the United States. She said that he saved 285 million people from dying from fentanyl overdose. That means that 75 million Americans are addicted to fentanyl, including children. Okay?
Yeah.
That it makes no sense. But let me tell you, what's even more bogus is the formula. Because the formula takes into account a purity level. I checked what the current purity, because it's like the current purity level of fentanyl. I checked to find out what the current purity level is. Guess what I found out? There isn't one. The current purity level of fentanyl depends on several things. One, where it came from. Two, who made it, how it was manufactured, okay, and what it was sourced from. So basically, they asked for AI to spit out a formula, and she came up with a number. And no one who knows math, clearly she's an attorney because she doesn't know math. Because anyone who knows math would have said to her, ma'am, there are only 330 million people in the United States. What you're saying is that 45 million people are not addicted to drugs. That's it. Only 45 million. Do you know that there are 73 million children in the United States?
But they don't care about that. They just throw any
So basically,
out.
Wait. So basically, you're saying that 43 million children are addicted to fentanyl, and every adult in the country is addicted to fentanyl, because the only people that are not addicted are the 34 million children. The only people not addicted are the 34 million children. Everybody else is addicted to fentanyl, including everyone in prison, every migrant, every immigrant, and that would include everyone in Congress and everyone in the White House. And actually, I would believe that.
Well, yeah, it clearly shows when they wiping their nose and stuff. You got Musco. What is it? Ketamine.
But here's the other thing, right? This is the other thing that tells me how stupid they are. This raid also took place in early February. They watch too much TV. Okay. I know that the show FBI, in about a span of 3 days, in the course of an hour-long program, they locate the drugs, they do all the investigations, they get the warrants, they get people there, and by the end of the show, they get the drugs. That's not how things work in real life.
That's not how it works.
Because our legal system doesn't work that fast. They got to get warrants. They got to get all kinds of things to line up to even do surveillance to find the drugs, right? So he only took office the 21st of January. This happened early February, which means that the process of getting this set up to confiscate the drugs, who was president January 20th?
Exactly. But then,
because obviously this was going on months before.
But you want to then turn around and say that the decline of our economy was on the last, go around back.
47 is still blaming him for everything.
She said they got but she said they got like 34 million pounds or something of fentanyl. There's no way they got that in 3 weeks.
No,
that was a long-term organization. They had to have people undercover, down deep undercover. This means they were doing, look, let me tell you something. I watch good shows. I watch Canadian crime shows where they will take a whole season to find the damn drugs. So, and you'd be like, yeah, this person by the end of the show was like, I was undercover for a year trying to find the drugs. By the end of the season, you saw them at the beginning of the season when they got the assignment. You watched the whole thing, over 25 episodes of them undercover. So I know good television. I know things don't happen overnight. So people can believe her if she wants to, but she thinks that everybody's as stupid as MAGA folks. Guess what? I went to college. I can read a fucking book.
Thank you.
LaLa.
I just get sick of the whole thing because, for one, everything that they say is a lie. It's very clear. Those who are not MAGA, we see it. But then again, like I said, those who drink the Kool-Aid, you'll never, ever, ever convince them. So we are at this great divide until we decide that it's time to move forward in unity. And as I always say, you have to pick your poison. Listen, there's so many things that we have to fight right now. You don't have to be like, I gotta fight this, and this. No, it's so many of them, baby. We can have subsets underneath the big umbrella. So pick your poison. If you don't like that, go after that. If you don't like getting your rights taken away, get underneath that one. If you don't believe in El Salvador, get underneath that one. But the point is, you have to get together because these lies cannot stand. This is not going to fare well with them. What do we do when we talk about Hitler? We all get a pit in our stomach and our faces. Because it's such a disdain and such a sickening thing. And we are seeing this. This is not going to fare well with them at all. And unfortunately, we all have to go through it. But still, we are going to end up seeing the collapse of them because this just outright lies, outright hate, outright injustice. It can't stand for too long.
And what is the media's purpose for being in the room? If you're not going to say to her, ma'am, you're saying 75% of the population is addicted to fentanyl. That is literally what you just said. When you say 285 million people were saved from death. I'm sorry, but I've never wanted to try fentanyl.
I didn't even know what it was.
Why would you put me in that? No, I've said I've never wanted to. Have I had fentanyl? Yes, when I've had surgery in a hospital.
That goes to tell you, I didn't really have no surgery, so yeah, I don't know.
That's it. And guess what? The last procedure I had, LaLa, they were only supposed to twilight me. They put me out with the fentanyl because the time before they tried to do it, I was fighting them. That is the only reason why. They put me in, they're like, you got to go out because you were fighting us the last time in your sleep. Yeah. So it is ridiculous. But this goes along with our next story, Dr. Vibe. Because see, while 285 million people are addicted to drugs, then there's this.
All right, before I go any further, I want to ask both of you a question. 47 regards himself as a populist president, correct? Now,
I guess.
Okay, but what he's doing is only serving a small minority of people. So how can you be a populist when you're serving a small minority of people?
Because MAGA doesn't care.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Some of them are starting to wake up.
Let's say this. I said this. I'm a new contributor to Friendo Media, and the thing I wrote in the first piece that I contributed this week was that they would rather have nothing if it meant that the people they hate had access. Not had the things, but had access to things. Period. That is it. Dude would rather, people who live in trailer parks would rather have no water if it meant that if somebody said you don't have to have well water anymore, we're going to run a pipeline here, but it's going to run through, it's going to go through, and the pipeline will go through, it'll go through this inner city neighborhood down to the main pipeline. Wait, what? Oh, no, we don't want it. We'll deal with our water and the deer feces.
Mm-hmm.
It's that bad.
That bad. It is that bad.
It's that bad. No, Dr. Vibe. And I mean, it's that bad. I need y'all to let that sink in. It's that bad. We're at the point whereas I'd rather die before let you do anything.
Yes. These people are like, I would rather have to go down to the river, pick up some water, boil it, make, and try and drink it and hope I don't get sick than to have them run a pipe that's going to run through the inner city where those Black people live. And I can just turn on my faucet and get clean water. No, because of Black people. I don't want to share their water pipeline.
Well, that says everything. Let's move on to the
I want white water.
Right.
Wow. All right.
A while ago, TV One actually did a movie called White Water. If you get a chance, watch it. It's actually good. It's about a little boy who wants to find out if the water from the white fountain tasted different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's move on to our next conversation piece. Despite pledge to expand Narcan access, 47 administration proposal would cut overdose protection programs. Oh boy.
Specifically Narcan. They're cutting this. So if 285 million people in the United States are addicted to fentanyl, they're going to go ahead and cut the, oh God, you just can't make this shit up.
No.
Anything you want to add? That was quick.
More people are going to die because of this.
Okay.
More people are going to die because of this.
Okay.
Just like children are dying because, vaccinations, they don't work.
Yep. People's teeth are going to fall out, and particularly people in West Virginia, where they have really
and Appalachian Mountains of Kentucky.
Appalachia, because RFK Jr. said to take the fluoride out of water. They also are taking the inspections away from, infant formula. Our food is about to be less safe.
Okay.
When you could only have one rat hair in your food, you'll now have about 20,000. Yeah.
LaLa, you're going to mention about Kentucky.
Well, here's the thing. Kentucky is a very it's an anomaly to me. It's one that it's a mystery. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. That is mostly, by the way, it is Kentucky Derby Day. Happy Derby Day, everybody. That is blue, mostly blue. But the rest of the state is pretty much red. You have the poorest of the poor. We're talking about water. We're talking about vaccines. We're talking about all the things that they need, the Meals on Wheels. You've got old coal miners still dealing with the lung cancer and all those things, but they would rather believe that they can raise themselves up and be a Mitch McConnell or a Trump before they will let any other any minorities think that they're any better than them. And that is where we are. Kentucky is in that part of where all this is going to be majorly affected. And it's going to be very interesting to me to see what's going to happen when Mitch is done, because for the most part, we have been keeping Republicans there, but we still have Brashear, who is our Democratic governor, who is doing an excellent job. So Kentucky is one to watch, because you do have the poorest of the poor there, and all these things are coming down that we are talking about now, just these two things, because that is one of the highest drug areas is Appalachian Mountains. Okay, so they're not going to get that, and they're not going to get their food stamps. They're not going to get the vaccinations for their children, but they would rather let their kids die than to admit that they were wrong. And measles is on the rise in Kentucky.
You know what's so funny? Jen might be the only person here who remembers this, aside from you, Dr. Vibe. About 6 years ago, we were talking on this show about something that happened here when there was some synthetic K2 that was being given out. They were giving samples, free samples. The drug dealers were giving free samples to homeless population in our downtown area. And it was like Zombieville, and people were passing out, having seizures all over. And it was like 60 people flat out in the middle of our green, our town center. And the people were being taken, they were being treated, taken to the hospital, leaving and going back and getting more because it was so addictive, right? And the thing that was saving those people was Narcan. There were 150 some odd people who had been, who had overdosed there on the green that day. 154. Oh, and it was
It just gives me freaking chills when all of this shit could be like avoided. You're doing everything to kill people.
Yeah. And you know what's so bad about that? You know what's so bad about that instance? It was so many people that we ran out of our doses of Narcan. They had to bring some from neighboring towns. So to cut it, imagine that. To cut it. Why does everything have to be a cut? Okay, you know what? Let me say something. This administration has not added one thing to people's lives. Everything has been about cut, 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 cut. They've been cutting everything. I have not heard them say, you know what? We're going to do a bill to expand this so people have more access to this. Everything has been about cut, 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 cut. When are people going to get sick of hearing them say cut? They're not saving money. It's obvious.
But yet, it's cut for everybody else, but it is more money for us. Because I'm never going to let this opportunity to talk about this pass me by. Musk has gotten more money from this government for absolutely shredding our whole system. Anything that he can take away from you and put in his pocket is what he's going to do. Now, they keep saying he's going to step down, but you done already shredded everything that we have for people who you feel are beneath you. So, let's make it very clear is that anything that they can take from you goes into their pockets.
And I'm sure he's gotten it already, but thankfully a judge said, no, you don't need people's social security information. What do you need all people's information for? To do what?
I'm sorry, I feel like it's already been done.
I do too, but he said you don't need their information to save money. That's the truth. It's the truth. You don't need our information to save money. And here's the other part about them cutting things, cutting all these programs. Where does the money go? And let's be very clear about
their pockets.
We have to be very clear about the money too, because guess what? They haven't done a budget for the current fiscal year. So the money that they're cutting is money that was already appropriated from the last budget that they did under Biden. That's their money. The money that's being cut is the money that was already promised and signed into law. Period. Because the new budget,
There
still working
is a process to this, y'all, but they just stepped right on in there and act like ain't none of that ever been a
and they haven't
for
accounted for where any of the money is going. When you say you're cutting, here's the thing. This is how state budgets work and how federal budgets work. Every penny is accounted for in a line item. If there is a line item that says this is for this amount of money is for Narcan to expand Narcan access. If you cut this line item, you can't just cut it and say, oh, we're going to keep the money in our coffers. First of all, Congress appropriated that money. So you need Congress's permission to redirect them, to first cut it, second, to redirect it elsewhere. And he's not doing that because he's doing it by executive order. And Congress is not pushing back. And when I say Congress, I mean the Republican Congress.
the Republican-led.
Democratic Congress can't push back. They can't push back because the Republican Congress made the rule that they can't. So the only people that can are the people that are not going to because they don't want to. And it's pathetic.
All right. Way back, Scott Greaves did the fire emojis. And Free Will says, hello, good people.
These people are trash. I'm sorry. They are, oh, God, how did we get here?
The more I know, the less I understand with your country.
I'm going to need another glass of wine. I'll tell you that right now.
I'll tell you. I want
Will didn't pour enough for me right now.
All right, let's move on to another conversation. And this is even more interesting. The U.S. Justice Department ended a decades-old school desegregation order. Others are expected to fall.
This was an order from 1960s, from a case from the 1960s. And the reason I brought this up is because this is a signal that they are really going to undo all of the civil rights laws from the late 20th century. The first was remember, the very first law that we got on the books in the late 20th century was school desegregation. This right here is setting up so that they can go back to having all white schools again and it be legal. When they tear down school desegregation, that also what was it that school desegregation opened up? It also said that public facilities, you can't discriminate in public facilities. That was supported by the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Guess what else he did too this week? He gutted the provisions of the 1964 Act that made it less difficult to prove discrimination. So when we talk about we are seeing our rights rolled back, and this case right here, people might not think concerns them. It really should, because this is the case that all of these rest of these civil rights cases, this going back to Brown, all the rest of the school desegregation cases are built on. All of the other civil rights cases, meaning rights for women, rights for the LGBTQ community, rights for the disabled, rights for religion, all come on this. And they picked this more obscure case in Louisiana because Brown would be too easy. They picked this one because they don't think that people will protest it as much as they would Brown, because Brown is the one that people know. So they picked one that is more obscure, but one that was decided because Brown was the law.
Okay. Wine. More wine.
Did either of you or any of the relatives in your family get exposed to segregation in schools at all?
My
Yes.
mother.
My
Well, you know,
mother,
everyone in my
my
family.
mother-in-law, but I call her mama.
Yeah. Well, you know, everyone in my family is a teacher. My mother went to segregated schools till she was 10 and then moved to Connecticut. My grandmother went to all segregated schools in South Carolina. My grandfather went to all segregated schools in Maryland. My grandmother's sister went to all segregated schools in South Carolina too, and then taught in all segregated schools because she became a teacher in 1958 was her first year teaching. And so she did that. And I'll tell you, it's one thing to be in a school where you have teachers that care about you and look out for you. That part is not the part that was the challenge. It's being schooled in buildings that weren't being repaired or taken care of. It's getting books that were 20 years old, desks that came from the white school from 30 years prior. They got all the hand-me-downs. And that was the problem with the segregated schools. So was desegregation of schools helpful? Why would you want to send your kids to be educated by people who hate them? I mean, that was always my question. But I also see the other side of wanting them to have access to newer books and newer technology to learn things. But it is just, you know, I'll tell you this. One of the reasons my daughter, because I lived in South Carolina up until my daughter was of school age. I left because they were literally going to make my daughter wait a full year because her birthday was late. They were going to make her wait a full year till she turned 5 to go to kindergarten, but she would have been going on 6 at that time. She would have turned 5 in November, but they were going to make her wait the next year because she would have been going on 6. My daughter could already read. So we came back home. She took a reading test. She skipped kindergarten and went straight to 1st grade at 5.
Mm. Yeah, exactly.
There's some questions, and there's some comments. I got a question to ask both of you. Free Will says FBAs are more happy about that. It's not effective. This act is spoken. The majority isn't with it. Free Will says respect the speaker. He also says, yes, my sister experienced 1960 busing in Indianapolis, Indiana. Wow. Hello, Dr. Tachi. Good to have you here.
Well, you know, what else is the strangest? It's the strangest thing. You know, I grew up in a majority minority town. But when I went to school, I was one of like 2 or 3 in my classes, the higher level classes. Mm-hmm. And that is a very weird experience. Even though the rest of your school, when you walk out of your class, the rest of your school is, you know, everybody pretty much looks like you.
Free Will says hi back to Dr. Tachi. Dr. Tachi says Free Will, happy Saturday. And also says same for all of us respectfully. Question for both of you. If the level of education and the facilities were kept in proper order, would you support segregated schooling?
Under Trump, yes, absolutely, 100%, because our kids, they're trying to wipe away our history. They're trying to make our kids feel lesser than. I don't feel comfortable. I do not feel comfortable with our kids, younger kids. I'm just glad I don't have a kid in school right now. I mean,
Oh my
let
God.
me tell you something. In my blue state,
That's an interesting thought right there. That
No,
would be,
I
I'm
actually told
glad
my
my kid's in
husband.
college.
go
You
ahead,
know,
Lala.
my thing is, I actually told someone, and I hate to say this because I know everybody has dreams, everybody wants their families, and that's a part of just life, being able to have a family and raise kids if you want to, as an option. But at this point, my son told me a long time ago, Mom, you're probably not going to have grandbabies, okay? And I was like, okay. And now more than ever, I'm like, thank God, because I would be constantly fearing for my grandchild.
Mhm.
I can't imagine raising a child in this world.
Look, I'm glad my daughter is 23 and wanting to wait to at least the age I was when I had her, which was 28. Hopefully in 5 years or more, it'll be better.
Aisha and I got a plot on that, though.
Huh?
Aisha and I
Oh
got
yeah,
a plot on.
we do have a plan.
Okay. Free will
We have
says
a plan.
the problem. Free will says the problem is the
Oh,
funding of
Lala, I
schools
think the plan
and the
is
rest.
I think the plan can work real even better. We gonna have to talk. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, no problem. The problem is the funding of the schools can be an arrestive development. Then, that would be such an interesting conversation topic if we could get some Black parents to just express how are they feeling
Mm-hmm.
with their kids going to school at this time, like public schools at this time.
Thankfully, I have a friend who has 4 kids in public school in Connecticut, and thankfully she's in the school, she's a member of the school board. My aunt is a school board member, and I think that that's going to have to be the route that more of us are going to have to take. This was what they did. They started with the
Yeah.
school boards.
Exactly. And that's why we kept telling y'all to pay attention to who's running for these school librarians and everything else, because that's where these people started. And we told you, and I'm sorry to keep saying we told you so, but maybe now you'll open your eyes to understand that your local and every election counts, not just the big one, not the ones every 2 years, not the ones every 4 years, the ones that happen every single year in your community. That's where it starts.
Yep. Let me tell you something. I have a friend who's a librarian, and she had to go to school for it. These parents talking about what they know and what the half of them can't even read the books that they don't want their kids to read.
All right. Next up, I think it's our last conversation topic. Aisha has a solution.
It's a solution. Okay, so I've been paying attention, and their thing has been to flood the zone. That's what Steve Bannon called. Let's flood the zone with executive order, executive order, executive order. If it's not executive order, it's nonsense. It's chaos, and it's enough to make your head spin. And you feel like, how can we manage this? How can we catch everything at once? Here's the secret: you don't catch everything at once. You laser focus and target and pick them off one at a freaking time. First person off, first person gone. Elon. And even though he might have what he did and he ruined what he ruined, he's gone. And you know why he's gone? Because people are minimizing it, but that election in Milwaukee sealed his fate. He couldn't win. He was unpopular.
It's been downhill for him ever since.
He was a loser. That embarrassed Trump. Trump doesn't like losers. So his days were numbered. And if you heard that cabinet meeting earlier this week, Trump was like, well, Elon did good work for us. Basically, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya, and let the doorknob hit you when the good Lord split you. That is basically what he told him. Second person gone in a week. The second person was Mike Waltz. Why was Mike Waltz gone? People think, well, it's Signalgate, but no, Mike Waltz is biggest crime. And people are like, oh, Laura Loomer, you're giving Laura Loomer too much credit. Here's why he was gone. He was gone because he had the journalist from the Atlantic's number in his phone. Trump tried to mediate that by doing an interview with the Atlantic and telling the reporters to bring Jeff, whatever his name was, into the interview. But that blew up in his face because the title was I Am King, or I Control the World, I Control the Country. Yeah. And that blew up and was an embarrassment for him. And so who does he blame? He blames Mike Waltz, because he wouldn't have had to do that if Mike Waltz hadn't had that man's number in his phone book and added him to that thread. So we pick them off one by one. The next person that we need to go after and put as much bad press about it out to embarrass Donald Trump is Stephen Miller. And the reason I say Stephen Miller is because he is the one person who is with the president all day, every day, and he's the one that has his ear the most. He's the one that has his ear the most with the most damaging policies. Pick him off. Get rid of him. Then you move to the next person. And the reason that we know this works is because it worked the last time. You know what? Mike, remember what happened with Mike Pence? He hated Mike Pence. The last person you got to get to is JD Vance. But pick the other people off one by one. They all have flaws. You can dig up something. They all have done things or said things. Right. There is a lot to dig up to embarrass them.
That's their kryptonite. You're right, Aisha. You're so right. That is their kryptonite.
Pick his embarrassment is the kryptonite, and you pick them off by having them embarrass him. You have to tie whatever it is they say and do to him. Tie it to him. And he doesn't like that. He wants the out. He wants to be able, he's going to find somebody to blame. And when he finds that woman to blame, or that person to blame, Pam Bondi's one of those ones, got to go. Okay. When he finds those people to blame, they get fired. He's too gone this week. It can work. It will take time, but it can work. Because you know who's gonna what's gonna really shake him up. If he doesn't have Stephen Miller, he has no one to tell him what to do with Project 2025. JD Vance can try, but he doesn't really like JD Vance that much.
No.
JD Vance is just there because Mike Pence isn't. Remember that.
Right. That's right.
So
that's right.
Yeah, that is the strategy. I mean, that is the solution, is that, and also too, it helps to minimize some of the damage that they can do if they're not there. Now, what does it mean beyond that? Well, it means that he'll have to try and nominate other people to fill those positions. Marco Rubio can only get but so many jobs. He got 4. Okay. They're treating him like he's from a third world country, which he is. So they can't do much more.
Ouch.
Than that.
There was no lie in that.
No, but he'd have to nominate other people. And here's the thing: the people that he nominates are going to be worse than these people. They're going to be more sycophantic. They're going to be crazier than these people, and they got to go through confirmation hearings, which means the public's going to know about them and all their stuff's going to come out. It's going to look really bad. But the thing that bothered him the most the last time was the turnover. That's why he waited the 100 days to get rid of Elon and Walz. He didn't want the turnover.
Right.
Give it to him now in the next 100 days.
I think that's great. I'm on board.
All right. Free Will says, I share your channel, Dr. Vibe. Let's see if we can gather a large audience. I appreciate it. We appreciate any help. Free Will says, love respectfully. He also says, I heard a woman talking about 47. Excuse me, says, I was like, wait, he still got 3 years before another vote. LOL. Where are you at, girl? And this was live on another channel. April says, now Elon wants to start on his city. Dr. Tachi goes, exactly right. Jeb the. Free Will says, April Watson, South Africa want to see Elon. LOL. And then Dr. Tachi says, Rubio is a complete disgrace.
And you know why we have to do this too? Because on Donald Trump's website, he's selling Trump 2028 merchandise.
Yep.
And it says something about no permission needed or something else, but something to the effect that he's gonna flout the law. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, he can't executive order that though.
No, he can't. But he has a Congress that can change the law.
Yeah, but doesn't he need 2/3 support of the House to determine that article of the Constitution?
He would need 3 Democrats, but we have an election next year.
Well, that's, I guess, for Democrats, that's why the midterms are critical now next year.
Right.
All right. Lala, you were so subdued today.
Yes, because I have had to keep my peace this week. Poor Aisha and Jill have had to hear a lot from me this week. And it's because I'm struggling with being able to find a peace place. And today I found my peace place. And I'm going to be very honest that I have started really trying to sew back into my life purpose. This week I started reading The Artist Way. And I realized that I have been a shadow artist, and that means that I have been putting my talents and my life purpose on the background for so many other things. And so things and the exercises that I have been working on this week have helped me to realize and point out to myself when I'm letting other things that are out of my control me. And so what you're getting today is I've meditated, Lala, but don't get it twisted. I'm very upset about the things that are happening. I still feel that our country is worth fighting for. No, it was never built on a completely solid foundation. It was always built on shaky ground. What's that old song? All other ground is sinking sand, right? That's an old spiritual.
Yeah.
And so what the last thing that Aisha and Jill and I were talking about is how do we move forward? And actually, I've been kind of focusing on that. And once again, I come back to the center of what we always say here. We must start with ourselves. I can sit back and be angry. I can sit back and be upset. I can sit back here and do my cussing. And sometimes I just got to let it out. But if I sit back and do nothing, I'm only poisoning myself. So that's why you didn't get too much rise out of me. I'm really going through a shift. And this is why I advise you to do the same. You cannot control everything at all times. It's out of your control. Until you get yourself centered, you can't even hear any answers that are coming to you to tell you what your next move is. But don't just sit back and do nothing. Pick something, one little thing, even if it is just reading a book to a bunch of kindergartners. That's putting light into the world. Just coming on and sharing your story with people. You never know who that's going to touch. Just freaking smiling at someone right now because everybody is so fearful and so uptight and feeling so helpless can really help someone. So yes, that's my feeling right now. And I will be very honest. Right before the show, I was able to talk to my baby brother, And that always lifts my heart to know that I still have siblings, that we are in this battle together of getting justice for my sisters, but our relationship is also getting stronger because of it. So there's always a bright light, no matter what we say here, no matter what we talk to you about. Our point is that we want to bring you some type of solution that you can do. And who better for me is Aisha and Jill and you, Dr. Vibe. I feel that you guys are my core family. We can say what we need to say on here, but we also have a genuine love of giving answers to people. And that's what keeps us motivated.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, our chat is one thing that it's like we can say what we want, we get it out, and we can be silly. And there's a lot of cursing of people out, and it's enjoyable. But I'll tell you, you know what though? For me, I mean, true crime is doing some heavy lifting these days. Oh my God! I mean, I'm at a place where I'm like, dang, is there a Dateline episode I haven't seen? Because that is how I tune out. I tune out. Thankfully, I have channels where I can see. I've got 2 2020 channels, 2 Dateline channels. Love Kills. I love Love Kills. That's a channel that I love because it's all dating and marriage, murders, and things like that. And, then TV One has a crime channel, and ID Go and all that. And so I tune out. I'm like, if we can't see justice happen right now, I at least like to see people having gotten justice, for a loved one. And so that right there, those stories keep me inspired because you learn that people, people stay in the fight.
Yep. All right. So final comments here. Free Will says Rubio doesn't know which way to go. Listening to LaLa, much respect. Free Will says, give us an opportunity to laugh at this, which you both do. Free Will says, no disrespect, LaLa. LaLa back, no disrespect taken, Free Will. And Free Will says, thank you. All right. We done. We got it all done. All right.
What moment?
Where can people get a hold of you?
It's very easy, guys. I actually just have a website. All of my contact information is there, links to my social media, as well as my store. And I'm really proud of my store. So I really would love it if you would go over there and check out some of my merchandise, maybe put it in your little cart and take it home with you. I do have some fun stuff that is political and also uplifting and motivating. Most of all, I really want you to be able to take care of yourself in some kind of way this week. We can let this beat us down, but only understand that it only hurts you in the long run if you allow it to take over and consume you. So go be the light. Smile at someone. You never know when that's going to save somebody's life.
100%, because you never know what's going underneath the person's cover. 100%. Well, and so here's a funny thing. So before we went live, I spent time with Aisha and I said, Aisha, tell us all the places we can get a hold of you. My goodness, was that a wrong question to ask? I'm telling you. So go for it, Aisha.
Instagram, AK Staggers, Medium, Aisha K Staggers, Blue Sky, akstaggers.bsky.social. And now it's not Friends of Media, it's Friendo Media.
Oh, Friendo. Okay.
Yep. It's Friendo Media. I'm now a contributor. So friendomedia.com. You can find a piece that I wrote there. And yeah, I'm going to be contributing their piece every week. And then my Substack, Aisha K Staggers. And also don't forget the Girlfriend's Chat Substack.
Okay, so if you have any more stuff in the future, I have to create another lower third. I'm just warning you that right now. Okay? All right. That's good stuff.
Excellent. I think I might do like LaLa and just put them all in a bit.ly.
Yeah, that may be a good idea. All right. So for myself, if you want to touch base with me, website, the drvibeshow.com, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, the drvibeshow, the Dr. Vibe Show, Instagram at the DRVIBESHOW, X/Twitter at DRVIBESHOW. And believe it or not, I'm going to start posting on Twitter again. Believe it or not, but all it's going to be is shorts and things, not too much of my own category content, but I want to put it out there to the audience. And I've been encouraged to do this, pardon me, in a community poll or maybe on Instagram. Would you like to see me doing a show like maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, just hosting a show, and maybe I'll bring a topic? Happened to me there. There we go. Just hosting a conversation. I share my thoughts and we can interact, or we just hang out. Something like hanging with Dr. Vibe. Either tell me in the chat. I'm gonna probably do something on a community post on YouTube, or there's all the ways you can get a hold of me. Also email dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And yes, I do need 2 lower thirds. So there I am on Substack. drvibe.substack.com, subscribe, and then on Blue Sky at drvibe.bsky.social. And you can watch replays of this epic conversation on at Dr. Vibe on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and the Dr. Vibe Show website. We done. Oh, there's some more comments. Can't forget the comments. All right. Free Will says, hi, Aisha, and also says much love and respect. And Free Will says, thank you, sir. Your time is appreciated. It's our time. It's everybody. Aisha, LaLa, myself, all of you, the people who are watching live on the replay, all of your time is appreciated. And we had people liking on Facebook. Jenny Clow, Kevin Shea, who I haven't seen in a long time, but a prolific hockey book writer. Wonderful, and a great musicologist. And, of course, Jen Myers. Okay. Now, Free Will, you're saying put it up again so I can screenshot. Put what up again? Tell me in the chat before we leave. What do I need to put up again? Do you need my contact information? I'm giving you 20 seconds to put it up, and then we're getting out of here. So, Free Will, tell me quick, because Aisha and LaLa want to go sleep. All right? So, if you don't put it up in the next 10 seconds, you're going to have to DM me or something like that. That info, yes. Okay, that's what you wanted. This is what you're going to get. Actually, Free Will, if you're watching my YouTube channel, go in the comments section. I've shared all of it. So just go in the comment section. It's all there. And someone in the green room saying, yes, it's all there. So it is all there. All right. Let's call it this way. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. As always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history. Try to do both. And make it better. As always, God bless. Peace well. Keep the faith, walk good. And we will see you, as one of my mentors says, on those digital streets and on all the other programs we do. God bless.
To understand how afraid I am of any member of the rodent family, that's down to squirrels and chipmunks. Okay? I cannot stand all members of the rodent family. Rabbits, bunnies, no. What else is going on that day? I mean, is there something we're supposed to be doing?
Why are you going there? Why are you going there? You know I'm going to ask you. It falls the same day as the inauguration of the new president.
The what? Excuse me? I'm sorry?
So in other words, Monday.
So onesies. Now, folks, don't ever think you're going to see us all on a show with onesies on. Don't do that.
You might see me. You might see me.
You'll see me and LaLa, because we oftentimes wear ours.